Hey guys, another great week here at RK Motors, another great showcase spotlight. Let's roll the intro. What's up guys, Josh here, RK Motors content guru and user of ridiculous adjectives. This week's showcase spotlight, this pulchritudinous Buick Riviera. But first, trivia question for you. What was the first division of General Motors? Should be relatively easy, let us know in the comments. First generation Buick Riviera, probably one of the most iconic Buicks ever created. It started as a design study for Cadillac called the Cadillac LaSalle. LaSalle, of course, being the companion mark to Cadillac back in the early days. Cadillac rejected the car, so Buick took the car. It officially debuted as the Buick Silver Arrow concept, and the rest, as they say, is history. It was General Motors' first foray into the personal luxury coupe or personal luxury car segment. So pretty much performance coupes that emphasize comfort over performance. A great example of that segment, probably the founder of that segment actually, is the Ford Thunderbird. And like this Riviera, you know, the Thunderbird kind of has an intertwined history with Ford's luxury division. And of course, if you don't know, I'm speaking of the 61 Continental, probably the most popular Continental that started out as a Thunderbird design proposal. So the Riviera name, it wasn't always a model. It began as a trim. In 1949, the Roadmaster Riviera, along with the Cadillac Coupe de Ville and Oldsmobile Holiday 88, were the first mass-produced pillarless hardtops. General Motors would expand on that logic in 1961 when they introduced sedan pillarless hardtops, so two-door and four-door, and of course in the Buick line those were called Riviera as well. As far as the Riviera model, as you know, as we just said, it debuted as the Cadillac LaSalle design concept and the Riviera Silver Arrow physical concept. So the Riviera has always been highly influenced by design. It was produced from 1963 to 1999. The first cars, this generation, 63 through 65, were influenced by the Silver Arrow, of course, and then there was a Silver Arrow 2. And after that, you go into the boat tail era, which is, you know, the 70s, really cool looking cars. And even the 99 model, which one marketing exec described as curves that always seem to change. So this first gen Riviera is a unique body shell. It's something General Motors wasn't doing a lot of at the time. Very cool looks. It doesn't employ the traditional Buick design element we see of the 50s Buicks, and even in modern days, like you can look up Buick's international cars now and see the Buick Sweep Spear, which is a line that starts at the front fender and goes down and then kicks back up over the rear fender. Instead, this car made use of a theme introduced by Raymond Loewy with Studebaker called the Coke bottle theme. Now, if you've seen a muscle car, you've seen the Coke bottle theme. Pretty much every manufacturer eventually incorporated that, and even today, you know, Camaros and Mustangs still employ that theme. Other cool aspects, because the glass is not framed, during manufacturing, the doors had to be hung and the glass had to be adjusted before the door skin was applied to the car. 1964 saw the advent of the stylized R, which would follow the model all the way to 1999 when it was officially canceled. And of course, the clamshell doors. This is why everybody likes the 1965 model so much. Clamshell headlight doors that are electronic as opposed to vacuum operated, that look just like the concept. In 63, they couldn't really engineer the lights to follow the actual concept, the Silver Era concept, but by 65, they had perfected that element. This particular Riviera is restored in correct bamboo cream. Really hard to go wrong with a 60s General Motors yellow. They're all really nice. It's been restored as a Grand Sport. It's really hard to prove the authenticity of Grand Sports on these cars. So kind of what you see is what you get. But it was restored as an early Grand Sport, and you can tell that by the trunk ornamentation. So later Grand Sports had the emblem here, whereas early Grand Sports had the smaller emblem beneath the Riviera script. Okay, let's take a look under the hood. So the really neat thing from a hobby perspective about the Riviera is it kind of crosses boundaries. A lot of muscle car guys love the car, a lot of traditional guys love the car, and it even attracts people who aren't really into cars. A classic example is the picture of Leonard Nimoy in his 65 Riviera that constantly floats around the internet. One traditional aspect of this car is the Wildcat V8. This is actually a Super Wildcat, 425 cubic inches. The 425 version of this V8, which is a Buick Nailhead or nail valve, is what the enthusiasts call it because of the position and the shape of the valves. It maxed out at 425 cubic inches, and the 425 debuted in the Riviera. So this is a Super Wildcat, meaning it has the 2 4-barrel carburetors and intake. So what would happen is you would order like a Riviera Grand Sport back in the day, and you could click that option, select that option. So we're clicking things back then. And they would put that stuff in the trunk, and the dealer would install it for you. One fun fact about the 425 was these motors were used to start the SR-71 Blackbird spy plane. So they would put a couple of these on a caddy and cart it out to the jet and start the engines using these torque monsters. It's called the Wildcat 465, despite being 425 cubic inches, because 465 pound-feet of torque. Now that torque, Buicks are known for their torque, vintage Buicks, and that's because originally they were designed for Dynaflow transmissions. So they wanted a lot of torque at the low end so the transmission would operate smoothly. Appearance-wise, looks pretty much as it would have been, except probably a lot nicer given the restoration. And the only real thing that sticks out is, of course, the modern battery. Got to have that, and modern air conditioning. Let's take a look between the doors. So as you can see in there, it's very Bill Mitchell-esque, Bill Mitchell being the head designer GM when this car was created. Personal luxury coupe. One interesting, or luxury car, some people call it personal luxury car. One interesting thing about that segment is no bench seats. So if you'll notice, there's 4-place seating for an individual seat for each passenger. GS has got actual walnut wood trim, which is pretty cool. Standard features: tilt steering column, power driver seat, power windows. And this car has been upgraded, as most restorations are, with modern audio and modern air conditioning. Now that we have the car on the lift, let's take a look at the bottom side. The construction of the first generation Riviera was achieved by using basically the frame that Buick introduced in the early 60s, cross frame, but they downsized that. So while the car was still a little bit bigger than its main competitor, the Thunderbird, it was also lighter and generally handled better. That was especially true when it was optioned with Buick's ride and handling package, something the brand did on quite a few other offerings, which created, it was basically a 1-inch lower drop, and it created lower center of gravity, and it drove better. The thing about a personal luxury coupe is comfort is emphasized. So you're not dealing with a suspension that's very stiff to begin with. So it's kind of an added benefit that the car drove so well. Power steering was standard. One cool thing is Buick's legendary owl fin brake drums. So you have power assisted drums, massive drums, 12 inches, that were very good at dissipating heat. So you had very competent braking on this car straight from the factory. So by 1965, the Dynaflow transmission had been phased out. This car comes with a Super Turbine 400 correct transmission. It's basically a turbohydraulic 400 with a variable pitch converter, so you still get that Buick smoothness. And of course, on the outside, these gorgeous Buick Formula 5 Rallyes. Whitewall tires give it a nice little traditional feel, even though it could be considered a muscle car. I hope you guys have enjoyed this detailed look at our 1965 Buick Riviera. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Give us an answer to the trivia in the comments and let us know what you want to see. Thanks.